I'm so happy to have the renowned Axel Müller with us today. So Axel is a professor at the Natural History Museum at the University of Oslo. His primary research interests are the mineralogy and petrology of granites and pegmatites and related rare metal, gemstone, and industrial mineral deposits. And it is going to be amazing getting all the info on the GREENPEG toolset to explore for buried pegmatite, hosting lithium, and other strategic commodities to feed the energy transition. So it's going to be a great session. Please keep using the chat and we'll open up the floor at the end. And yes, thank you so much, Axel, for joining. I really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jessica. Okay, hello everybody. So I apologize a bit. It's 6 o'clock in the morning and it's very cold and dark here in Norway, in Oslo. Anyway, today I'd like to tell you a little bit about GREENPEG project, which develops a tool set for exploring buried pegmatites, mostly for lithium but also other strategic commodities such as quartz, feldspar, and beryllium, and so on. Yeah, maybe first, before I start, a little bit about my host institution. I'm based at the Natural History Museum in Oslo and leading the mineralogy group. And it may be a not so famous institution for mineral research or economic geology and exploration. However, actually, the history of the geology research goes back to the Kongsberg mining school, which was a famous silver mine in the 17th century. And the mining school was founded in 1757 already, one of the oldest one in the world, and that became part of the University of Oslo. And later on, the famous Victor Moritz Goldschmidt established one of the first raw materials in laboratory, one of the first raw material laboratories in the world in Oslo at the Natural History Museum. And today, we have the small research group called MORMIN, which translates genetic information into exploration strategies applicable by mining industry and among other things. Okay, so what I'm going to tell you today is about the GREENPEG project, which is a EU-funded 9 million euro project, which is to develop exploration technologies, conventional ones, but adjust them to find buried pegmatite deposits. The project is a relatively large project for EU in the EU context. So we have 13 partners from the industry, from academic institutions, but also from non-profit institutions around Europe. The map on the left shows you the green countries are the consortium members of the project, which the EU is like. So all countries are nicely distributed, partner countries over Europe. The target of the GREENPEG project are the commodities, lithium and silicium, but also rare earth elements, beryllium and tantalum, which are found in pegmatite deposits. So we focus the development of exploration tools only to this type of deposits. And as I show you, we have already a lot to do. The pegmatites are relatively small deposit bodies in compared to other deposit types, but they occur in large numbers or in clusters, which makes them a bit special in compared to other deposit types. Because they can occur in clusters, allowing exploitation with relatively little investment, and because they're also small. However, they are hard to discover, which I will explain you a little bit later on why. And the objectives of the project are a multi-method and environmental economical viable toolset development, which includes new exploration data sets and workflows, and also new instrumental exploration techniques and devices. As you maybe know, At the moment, about 65% of the world production of lithium is sourced from hard rock lithium. That means from the mineral spodumene, which is shown on the left side. So it's at the moment the most important lithium source. It has overtaken actually the salt brine lithium in South America. And that the mainly reason is that the battery industry prefers actually the spodumene produced lithium carbonate, is because it's a little bit chemical purer. So for those who are not so familiar with pegmatites, the definition of pegmatites is very simple. It's basically igneous rock, usually of granitic composition with very coarse but variable grain size. So in general, you would say you can call a granitic rock pegmatite if it has a crystal size larger than 3 centimeters. And they form relatively small bodies, as I mentioned before, and they are called clusters. What the pegmatites makes it difficult for exploration is the extreme variability in mineralogy and also internal zoning. So compared to other rocks, pegmatites are internally zoned. So that means the mineralogy changes from the margin of the body towards the core. And in addition, also the grain size changes. Usually the grain size increases from the margin towards the core of the pegmatites. On the left hand, you have the famous picture from David London, one of the most famous pegmatite researchers. He shows you a little pegmatite dike where you can see nicely the variation of grain size, but also of the mineralogy. At the margin, you have mostly plagioclase and mica, and then you turn into potassium feldspar with the beryllium in the core and also a quartz core. And on the right, you see the famous picture of Peter Cherney explaining naming the different zones of pegmatites, which are very helpful for the field description. Here in these pictures are some examples from Norwegian pegmatites. They come in all sizes and shapes and mineralogies. On the left side, you see one of the famous outcrops we call the Iveland roll, where you have anatectic pegmatites welded out of amphibole and biotite gneiss. On the upper right, you have a huge pegmatite mine, which is mined for high quality potassium feldspar. And then bottom right, you have an example from Poland, which just shows you the grain size difference between the host granite, the surrounding material, and the pegmatite itself. So the chemistry of both is the same, it's just the grain size which makes the difference. Anyway, because they come in so many shapes and different settings, it's quite challenging for exploration to find buried pegmatites. A little bit about the commodities which are hosted in pegmatites. It's first of all, or most important at the moment, is lithium. But also silicon metal is produced from quartz of pegmatites, which is also an increasingly important source. As you may know, silicon metal is in the meanwhile also classified as critical raw material in the EU. But you can also find rare earth elements, tantalum and beryllium and feldspar, also important commodities from pegmatites. A little bit about the geopolitical background of the pegmatite project, why we got so much money just for explore for one deposit type. This diagram shows you for 6 different commodities hosted by pegmatites, the world production in the green line from 2005 to 2022. And the red line shows you the production in Europe. And you see for most commodities, Europe produces usually less than 10%, except the feldspar. That means most of these commodities have to be up to 95% imported into Europe. That is then the reason also that the EU set up now the Critical Raw Material Act, which will come in action next year, meaning that about 10% of the consumption of critical raw materials in Europe have to be mined in Europe. Yeah, that is also here illustrated why in this picture a little bit. So you see, if it comes to lithium production, for example, 65% mined in Australia. Then the remaining lithium is sourced from the Salt Lake brines in South America. However, the processing is done for all the spodumene coming from Australia and China. So the EU is very dependent, basically 100% dependent from the lithium processing or processed in China. And therefore, EU likes also to mine their own lithium pegmatites, which is somehow understandable. And here you see the new Critical Raw Material Act as a the web announcement from March this year. But as I said, the act will come in action in March next year. So therefore, it's also actually a lot of Australian and Canadian mining companies like to invest now in Europe, because this act will put a lot of pressure to activate and open new mines in the EU in the next years. Okay, good. I haven't told you anything about the GREENPEG project itself, so it's getting a time to go down here. So the paradox is actually there are actually only very few pegmatite mines in operation in Europe. However, in Europe we have a lot of pegmatites. This map of Europe shows you the most important pegmatite provinces, which are here in this map, about 20. And each province contains at least 100, sometimes up to 3,000 pegmatites. Of course, not all are economic. Anyways, there's a good chance in Europe to find more pegmatites, and also including lithium pegmatites. Now I'm getting a little more into the GREENPEG project, what it's about and how it's constructed. So the GREENPEG project develops and also tested conventional methods in the three prospect scales. So the project is subdivided in the province scale, which is mostly remote sensing technology, in district scale exploration, which is airborne geophysics, and then the prospect scale, which are all on-ground geophysics and geochemical methods, including the drone-borne geophysics. To start with, we applied altogether 65 exploration methods, basically all exploration methods which you can find to detect buried pegmatites. You don't have to read all here in this table. Anyways, the good thing, we had a lot of money, or we're having a lot of money from the EU, so we could do this. And you're maybe wondering, sorry, first this slide. In the frame of the GREENPEG, we not only apply conventional methods, we also develop new things. We have basically 3 technological inventions within the project. That's on the left side is the piezoelectric spectrometer, which is using the piezoelectric effect of quartz to detect buried quartz-rich bodies, which are basically pegmatites. It's not a new method, however, it has not been used for a while in the exploration. It's a little bit forgotten, so we like to reactivate the technique. Then we develop a hyperspectral drone imaging system with a German company, and also now it's already in action. We have now a nose stinger magnetometer radiometer for the European helicopters. So that's the first one in Europe. Maybe in Australia you have, for the US, much common to have these nose stingers for geophysical exploration. However, in Europe we hadn't one, which was European certificated, and that is big thing for Europe, that we can now do high resolution airborne geophysics, which is done by a German company, TerraTech. The image here shows you the difference between the nose stinger boom, which is shown on the right side, and the conventional bird system. The bird system is where the magnetometer and radiometer, it's sitting 30 meters below the helicopter. So the distance to the ground is relatively high. And also it's a certain risk for the helicopter flying with a bird hanging 30 meters above, below it. So the nose stinger is much more safer, and because it's directly attached to the helicopter, you can, the distance to the ground is much lower and you get much better resolution of the geophysical data. What we did in the next step, so all the methods I mentioned, we applied in 3 greenfield exploration sites in Europe for pegmatites. One is in northern Norway. It's called the Tysfjord area, where about 25-6 pegmatites containing high purity quartz are situated. 2 of these pegmatites are currently mined, and you see on the scale on the upper left, in the lower left picture, you see a little person there. So the pegmatites are big. They are usually or often up to 500 meters in diameter. They are the largest intraplutonic pegmatites in the world. And they have the second best quality, chemical quality of quartz in the world. The second field is the Leinster area, south of Dublin in Ireland, where about so far about 25 spodumene pegmatites has been discovered lately from the landscape. You see, so hardly any outcrops, but the pegmatites have been more known through boulder mapping more than 100 years. And the third exploration method testing area is Wolfsberg in the Eastern Alps. There's already several spodumene pegmatites are exposed in a test mine from the 1980s, where we can nicely test our equipment. Because here I'm from Norway, a few slides about the Norwegian pegmatites, where we are testing our methods. The map on the left shows you the area immediately south of the Lofot Island. You have probably heard it's in northern Norway. So the pinkish area in the geological map is the Tysfjord granite gneiss, which is the parental granite of the pegmatites. The pegmatites are shown in red dots. You see most of the pegmatites are actually clustered around a little village called the Drag, where also the quartz processing plant is situated. And mining actually is going on in this area already for 100 years, not for quartz, but for feldspar. But then since the 1990s also for quartz. And the landscape is just fascinating. As you see on the right side is the Statind, the national mountain of Norway. It's a beautiful landscape. Yeah, here you see an example of one of the pegmatite mines, is the Håkonhals mine. The pegmatites also strongly deformed in the Caledonian times. So they are Proterozoic in age, but deformed in Caledonian times. So they look a little bit sheared. Anyway, the pegmatite body in general is still intact. On the right side, you see the geological detailed map of the pegmatite and the mine in the pegmatite, and then drill core locations and so on. And you get also an idea about the size of the pegmatite, which is about 500 meters in length. Here you have on the left the geological map, which is very simple because all pegmatites are situated in granite. The red dots are the granite locations around the village Drag. As I mentioned, here is also the processing plant of the quartz raw material from the pegmatites, but the processing plant also processes material from the US. On the right side, you see also the cross sections through the underground mine, which is in one of the pegmatites next to the Drag village. So mining is going here on below the village. Yeah, a little bit about the methods which we tested. So I start with the province scale method. That's basically remote sensing. See, this development has been done by the Porto University, which are specialists in satellite image processing. Here they applied spectral band selection from Sentinel-2 satellite images and treated them with random forest application. And to filter, let's say, the spectral information which is relevant for pegmatites. On the left side, you have the satellite image of the Tysfjord area, which is a lot of seawater in the area, as you can see. And on the right side, you see the filtered areas based on the spectral reflection of pegmatite minerals, mostly feldspar. And the whitish areas are areas of interest, but the red areas are the areas of high potential of pegmatites. So we can already, with satellite image processing and the mineral information, identify areas with high potential for pegmatites. Anyway, I have to say this method is only applicable to pegmatites which are exposed at the surface. In connection to this application, also we developed a spectral database which is freely accessible. I jump now down in the exploration to the in the district scale, which means airborne geophysics. And on the left side, I haven't mentioned yet that the pegmatites are not only, let's say, mineralogically specific bodies. They also have a specific feature. When they crystallize, the remaining water of the melt is expelled into the country rock in the wall rock and forms lithochemical halos. This can be helpful for exploration as well because they carry the signal of the pegmatite. And that's actually what we have seen by surprise in the Tysfjord pegmatite area. The airborne radiometric map of the thorium signal measured by a very narrow flight line distance of 50 meters shows you the radioactivity of the area. You see the scale is relative high resolution, 500 meters. So the map is about 3 times 4 kilometers. And the red pinkish areas are areas of of higher radioactivity. And the yellow dots here that are the mines, and you see the high radioactivity correlates very well with the mine location. And in some cases, we have only anomalies. And it turned out that these anomalies also carry, although they are pegmatite bodies which have not been discovered so far, are in this high radioactive anomaly area. So that's the first time in the world that actually pegmatites were detected by airborne geophysics via radiometry. So that was a very great finding. So in this particular case, we can use the radioactivity of pegmatites to detect new pegmatite bodies. And because, I forgot to mention this, the thorium and uranium of the pegmatite bodies goes also in the halo of the pegmatite. You can actually also with this method detect hidden pegmatites up to a depth. So the halos are about 25 meters wide. So you can detect pegmatites up to 25 meters depth in this particular area. We also applied a new method, which is called the trace element in quartz geochemistry. So you use the quartz trace element signature to discover the chemical zoning of the pegmatite field. And here we deal already in the Tysfjord area with high purity quartz anyway. So the variation of trace elements in this quartz is very low. However, only a few ppm in variation in the quartz may change your quartz price about several $100 per ton. So that is very crucial, this information for the mining companies. So here we, for example, is the distribution map of titanium in quartz. You see in the drag area, the quartz is much more titanium pore, see the yellow dots, then in the margin of the pegmatite field where the quartz is more titanium rich. So this is a nice tool, this trace element in quartz mapping, to not only to reveal the geochemical zoning of your pegmatite field, but also the quality of the quartz. Now we are down to the prospect scale exploration. Here's an example where ground penetrating radar has been applied to model hidden pegmatite bodies, which are shown here in violet. That has been done by the Geological Survey of Norway. So in some cases, ground penetrating radar and also resistivity measurements on ground enable to model the pegmatite bodies. But this is depending from the exploration area. Yeah, as I tried to explain you, so the toolset is a quite complex package of methods, geophysical methods, which includes 2 data sets and 3 technological innovations. And then actually of the 35 applied methods, 23 are in combination, possibly can be used to explore for buried pegmatites. So the toolset will be published next year in a special volume of economic geology, who's interested. The structure of the toolset, I haven't told so much about the toolset, how it's structured and going to be applied. So this table summarizes the structure of the toolset, which is adjusted to the stakeholders. So at the beginning, you can increase your knowledge about pegmatites if you don't have. Then you have to perform a desk study, which involves this geological environment, exploration environment, and financial environment evaluation. Then you can choose your exploration scale and the methods within the scales. Of course, you can combine different scales and methods, and you should. And then you can develop with the help of our advice and workflows, your exploration workflow. One basic thing in our toolset is also an increased understanding of the origin of pegmatite melts. Traditionally, pegmatites are thought to derive exclusively from granite plutones, which is of course the case for many pegmatite fields worldwide. In this case, the exploration is relatively straightforward because you can also use the parental plutone as a start to explore for your pegmatite field, and also it helps you to understand easier the pegmatite zoning, because pegmatite field zoning, because the pegmatite field is zoned according to the location of your parental plutone. However, in Europe, it turned out that we have a lot of pegmatite fields which are actually not related to plutones, and they are interpreted to be anatectic, direct anatectic in origin. That means the pegmatite melts are melted out of either metasediments or meta-igneous rocks without parental granite in the stage, or the stage in between, which makes the exploration strategy a bit more complex. And this diagram here explains you why. In the upper part is a classical model for pegmatite formation with a parental plutone. If you have a pegmatite field which is related to a plutone, it's relatively straightforward in terms of the regional zoning of the pegmatite field, as shown in the upper 2 images. The most evolved and lithium-rich pegmatites, for example, would occur in the largest distance from your pegmatite, from your parental plutone. However, if you deal with an anatectic pegmatite field, the regional geochemical zoning is very difficult to reveal, because that depends on your heat source in the area, which can be very erratic, and also the melting behavior of your host rock can be erratic. So the pegmatite fields are usually not zoned in a strict sense. On the lower right side, you have an example where the pegmatites are bound to a major shear zone. So here your exploration area is limited by the shear zone. However, within the shear zone, your distribution of mineralized pegmatites is quite erratic as well. So summarizing, the model is quite crucial to understand the chemical zoning of your pegmatite field before you even start to go in the field. And how to work this out if your pegmatite field is anatactic or plutonic in origin. That is also explained in our toolset. Our toolset has also a work package how to deal with exploration environment. If your exploration environment is suitable to go on with a project, so we give a general advice and also refer to the documents which should be considered. For example, you have to consider the biodiversity in your area, natural hazards, and also the social environment, like indigenous communities, land use, etc. And this has to be done before you even start with exploring. That is our advice. Otherwise, you may get in trouble with the local population, as everybody knows who works in exploration today. Yeah, maybe I just jump over this slide and come here to one of the final slides. Here is now the list of all 23 exploration methods which we successfully tested in Europe to detect buried pegmatites. Ordered into the scales. On the right side, or right column, you have the contact partners in our GREENPEG consortium, which are specialized on these specific methods in terms of pegmatite exploration. Yes, and we had also the luck that we could publish the GREENPEG project application, actually, which is a bit unusual. Usually you would publish results. However, we were asked to publish the GREENPEG project itself. So this is already freely accessible here on this web page by the Geological Society of London. If you're interested how the project developed and is built up. And if you have more questions about the project and about pegmatites in general, you can contact us every time. And I think that is my last slide. So thank you very much for your attention. And I hope I was not too slow.
No, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.